why are least developed countries struggling to meet export targets? Imagine US has to import oil, but let's say the geopolitical relations were equal. Everyone was everyone's friend. There was no enemy. Wouldn't there be global competition? So the fifth why is let's deep dive. I will give you some bit of more context. Now, as per the latest report, there are 46 LDCs. For you to be able to appreciate and put some relatability to the problem, countries such as Bangladesh, Ethiopia, Nepal, Angola, Sudan, they are part of your LDCs list. Now, if you understand the economics, just the macroeconomic, what are the four pillars based on which you can enhance the economy of the country? Consumption, net exports, which has been the China story since last 20 years, investments, which is where India is trying to improve the India story, and the fourth one is government expenditure. Government expenditure contributes the least in terms of efficiency, but it still contributes. So in 2011, the total contribution of net exports by these 46 countries was just 1%. As part of United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, the goal was to make this percentage go to 1% to 2% by 2030. However, if you look at the recent data of 2024, it is still standing at 1%. And that is why it's even a graver concern. Let me kick off the first why. The first why is why are LDCs struggling to meet the targets? There is a target of 2%, and the answer to that why question is LDCs lack diversified and resilient industries. First and foremost, it's an export case. What do countries usually export? Oil, minerals, maybe if you're India, something like IT services, heavy machinery, heavy industries. When you are just focusing on basic commodities, you do not have the infrastructure to actually build potential sectors such as minerals, agriculture. These are the kind of sectors based on which you can have a foundations to actually export something. What should be your second why? Now that we have some information that they are focusing too much on commodities, not being resilient and diversified, with this information, what is the second why you can ask? Tabish?
Ma'am, the second would be, why do they lack this diversified and resilient industry?
Almost the right approach, correct. Maybe in the case of Tabish, he is asking a little broad question. I would ask a more specific question. Why are LDC industry sectors underdeveloped? Why is there no industrialization? And that is when you would find the answer that there are significant hurdles they have in industrialization due to limited access of, let's say, modern technology, infrastructure gap, lack of FDI as well. If anything, if you look at these LDCs in the African continent, they are extremely rich in minerals. Despite being rich in resources, because they do not have access to modern technology, they have infrastructural gaps, they have lack of FDI. That's why FDI becomes so important, so that you can develop a sector. That's the answer to your second question, second why. What is third why you would want to ask anyone? Now the drill is very simple. Radhika?
We could ask that why do they don't have these institutional setups? Why is the government not doing anything about it?
Why do LDC struggle with attracting foreign investors? And that is where the answer comes of political instability, poor governance, weak regulatory frameworks. So you see, whenever you are investing, you do not invest in an asset directly. What is an asset? Asset is that there is a Hotstar and Jio merger going to happen. Jio decided that it wants to purchase Hotstar. Hotstar is the asset. But before Jio decides that it wants to purchase Hotstar, Jio will first identify that I want to invest in the India story, and within India story I want to invest in the OTT story, and within OTT story it's the Hotstar that I want to acquire. That is how investors think, and that's why many a times countries, even if they tend to do well for a short period of time, if they do not have good governance, if they do not have strong institution, they can fall back to the trap of being a least developed country category. So that's the answer to your third why. So it seems like on the face of it, these LDCs commonly are found to have poor governance, weak regulatory frameworks, and that is, if you will look at their trade policies, you will not find a lot of strong data points on good frameworks. So you realize that there is poor prioritization. The answer to the fourth why is poor prioritization by the LDCs on important trade framework and on important good governance framework as well. Now, even if they solve all of this, there is a fifth why, which is that they have to beat what? Global competition. Now imagine US has to import oil. It can import from Iran, it can import from Saudi Arabia, it can import from UAE, the Gulf region, right? And then of course there is Russia as well. But let's say the geopolitical relations were equal. Everyone was everyone's friend. There was no enemy. Wouldn't there be global competition? Who should be able to sell the best oil? Especially when oil is a commodity, there is no strategic advantage. There will be global competition, right? So the fifth why is global competition a major barrier for LDCs in high value sectors? And that is when you will realize the answer is almost similar, that LDCs do not have good infrastructure, they do not have good upskilled population which can beat their peers or enemies such as China and India, which are trying to dominate the export market globally. We have established the root cause now of the problem statement. What will we do? The easiest step, right? Recommendations. Number 1, LDC should focus on diversifying their export base by focusing on emerging sectors like semiconductors and renewable energy. In fact, there are active efforts that are taken by World Trade Organization, World Economic Forum, making sure that there is equal access to infrastructure of renewable energy sector. Otherwise, it's going to further lead to an income inequal world. In a world where we are every day slowly moving toward renewable energy, if the LDCs are not able to participate in that properly, then they will continue to do further poor in the global economic market and at a micro level as well. Second, because they do not have a focus on FDI, so they should focus on attracting investments, particularly in the two sectors I've mentioned, semiconductor and climate change. You can take an example of Spain. Spain is in talk with China. In fact, recently made a mark. Just because China is outperforming in terms of its export doesn't mean that we should have a trade embargo. What is a trade embargo? That you stop the trade with China. No, maybe you can raise the export duty for China, but don't stop trade with China. What are you trying to do? You're trying to make sure that as Spain, as part of European Union, you're not trying to get into a trade competition with China. You're trying to build a healthy, balanced answer. Maybe by raising the export duties, the importers will not have a lot of benefit to export to take from China. Thereby, other players will have a lot of incentive. Okay, the export duty from China is high. Let us try to build this sector up. So if Spain as part of European Union can take that example, that is similarly how the African countries will have to take a stand on this, either on export or on import. That's the second one. The third one is strengthening governance and regulatory framework. So once again, US and China are about to get on a call to unlock investment opportunities in sustainable infrastructure. That is the level of effort nation states are taking, and that is the level of effort we need to take internally with LDCs as well, making sure that the environment is conducive for investments. And then of course, the last recommendation is capitalize on global trade agreement and climate commitments.